see, this is an interesting problem that that hit my mind. I have in an automotive industry or in a pharma industry, if I have say 10 manufacturing plants, or if take Alcoa, I
Yeah.
may actually be making products in 10 different plants,
Right.
10 different plants having 10 different problems.
Hmm.
Okay, but when I am a consumer or when I'm a customer, I may be a B2B customer, I don't care from which plant it comes from, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you solve a problem of quality in one
Yeah.
factory,
Yeah.
and you are talking about demand for demand or customization, which is really what the market need is. Now, how do I really balance all this? Because at the end of the day, I have to measure all this against some metric which says, is uh, is Toyota a reliable car manufacturer? Because I may
Yeah.
have hundreds of factories,
Yeah.
hundreds of different problems. So how do I then assess and actually say that Digital Factory has added value to the customer integrity or trust score or whatever that I were to call it?
Yeah. The same company, Toyota's example is a perfect one because, Toyota has thousands of vendors supplying products to them, especially in just-in-time type of production environment. And that's where the Toyota manufacturing system, the production system, TPM came about, product manufacturing system, TPM, I say, came about, right? So, one of the things some companies, the way they do it is each plant and each site is being operated as its own profit center.
Okay.
A lot of times, one factory is supplying to the next factory within the same company. So if my raw material is coming from plant A, um, I should, plant B, I'm plant B, I need to make sure, and I had to treat a plant A, even though it's the same company, same family, I need to treat them as my supplier.
Hmm.
And I had to expect from my supplier the same thing I would expect, quality and efficiencies and productivity, that I would expect from an external supplier. So one way to handle it is you treat each plant, each line or as a profit center, and that's one way of addressing that question. Another way is, at the end of the day, the corporation is responsible for the product quality overall. You are exactly right. When I'm going to go buy a Toyota car, I don't care who made the bolt and nut. It's Toyota's name on the plate, and so it is. They are responsible. So if I had to take a guess, Toyota ensures every part that they manufacture meets that requirement, the quality Six Sigma requirement they may have, and that's how they are going to ensure. They don't, when the product is shipped to Toyota's plant, they're not inspecting the plant at their receiving end. The expectation is it is already come in the quality, and if it has to be inspected, it is done at the supplier's end, right? That's one way of ensuring, my product in every stage it is in quality. Another way is with the modern digital factory. Every step of the way, that's one of the expectations when you're setting up a system, to ensure it is meeting the spec. So, for example, if a product has to be within a certain tolerance, let's say temperature, I'm going to use the Fahrenheit here, so that's what these days I'm familiar with. Say if a product has to be made at a 80-degree plus or minus 10%, and during your manufacturing process, that's what one of the expectations was in the
Hmm.
past. If a specification says make sure the product is at room temperature, to me that's not a very good specification.
Hmm.
Room temperature in the U.S. may be different in winter versus summer. So if a process engineer, or a product designer says, make sure the cake is baked at room temperature, that's not a very good specification. I want a very precise specification. And so this is where Digital Factory, when you say I'm going to do set up a digital factory, it's not, installing bunch of devices, connecting controllers and systems. Is everything that I do from product design all the way to inspection, making and inspection, do I have a design factory mindset applied, principles applied to that process? So it's not about operation doing something, engineers doing in the shop floor something that's going to make you a digital factory. It is the entire supply chain doing the things. And so in the case of baking a cake, I precisely want 80 degree Fahrenheit plus or minus 10% over a certain time. It has to be baked. That is the specification I'm expecting. That I can turn that into a recipe that I can give it to a PLC, programmable logic controller. It can use the thermocouple RTD to monitor it and report back to say, yes, I maintained that temperature within that tolerance for the 2 hours you asked me to bake the cake. Don't have to inspect it. Since I met those requirements, that cake should come in at that quality that you want, and it won't be burnt.
So when you look at what he talks about in terms of specs, a digital factory or any automation process, the importance of being precise is something that's extremely critical to being a successful digital factory. In the past, if you didn't automate and if you didn't have the data, you would probably give a certain large policy decision saying that, hey, this is how I want. But today, any process that you look at, whether you're building software or whether you're building a product, the importance of devices being tagged on from the time you start designing a product to the time you deliver the product until the time you service a product, the fact that you can use multiple devices to collect this data to a specification that you actually have on blueprint and then start measuring it, and then finally you are able to connect all of them up. And therefore the fact that interconnected processes and looking at data from different processes feeding into the next is very, very important. And therefore siloed thinking is something that's not going to be important need that businesses have. Siloed thinking is something that will not succeed. Siloed thinking will create islands of excellence, but what digital factories do is to build a chain of excellence across processes, and that is something that's going to be adopted by even the knowledge industry.